How about now? No, 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 no. Okay, so what we're doing now is I'm distracted by the fact that I don't know if you can hear me. So I'm just, and there's also like a lag usually. But okay, I think the mic is working now, I'm sure. Oh, thanks. Perfect. All right. Hello, everyone. I wasn't expecting all of you to join, but thank you. Thank you for being here. What I'm doing is I'm working on this library, and I've been working on it for quite some while. And you can see like I'm the only one working on this, and it's still in beta, but the repo's out there. It's a public repo, so if you want to snoop around, you can. What I'm doing right now is I'm trying to test this app. Like I'm building a podcast app just to test my library to see where do I get stuck, what things are annoying about it, and hopefully I can fix it before I give it to other people and they also get annoyed. So, so I was maintaining a list of things I have to do, and this is how far we've gotten. So now, like on this stream, what I want to do is add some animations to this. So you see the player goes at the bottom and you can click it, it comes back. And this is how it changes. You can click something, it goes, plays in the bottom. You can click it, it comes up. And these are actually two different components essentially. There's a tiny player and a big player. Yeah, there's a small player and a big player. So that's how far we had gotten the last time. Now, I'm going to try two animation strategies. So what I want to test is how nicely does React UI, the library React UI, play with animation. Like how hard is it to animate things, and can I bring in another animation library and see if it works. Like, there are always problems at the intersection of layers. Like if you bring library A and library B, they don't always work nicely together. So that's something I want to test. Okay. So one approach was to use Framer Motion. So Framer Motion is a pretty cool library. It's by the folks at Framer. And they have this concept of variants, which is also a keyword in React UI. So I thought it'd be cool to try this one. Scroll. This one. And the idea is that you declare two variants. So you say this is the active state and this is the inactive state. And then you use their motion elements to animate between the two. So I'm wondering if I could use that to do something like this, like keep the same element, but inside the element transition things like this. Could work. Maybe it's a bad idea. I was looking at what Material UI does, because there's something I found which is interesting. Come on, page, you can load. Okay. So let's see. They have a few of these where they actually slow it down. I think it's this one. So they don't animate the same frame. They actually they keep two copies and they animate the old one out while animating the new one. Yeah, I think this would help. Okay, this is a good example. So watch, this is like in full speed, but if we play it in slow motion, we'll see that you see at this point, the background image actually faded away and there was a new one which was bigger. And when you play it in full speed, you can barely notice, right? Let's see this one. Okay, this one is boring. This one? Nope. This is a bad example anyway. Okay, this is a fade in. Let me see. I saw a few good examples yesterday. Okay, let's look at this one. So even in this one, you'd see that this is the example I wanted actually. So you see this summer barbecue, this row, when it starts animating, you'd assume that this whole thing expands and the text on top is the one that goes all the way, but it actually doesn't. So they have this frame in between where everything disappears and then the other content animates in. So they essentially do a fade out, fade in like overlapped, which creates this really cool effect. And when you play it like 300 milliseconds, you can't even notice that something was different. Let me roll this back and play this. Right, it just looks like that row expanded. So these are the two strategies I have. Like one is I could just like fade, like zoom this one down, bring that one up, and if the timing is just right, then they would align and it would look like it's the transition. So basically the content inside fades out. The other strategy is to use frame of motion and actually transition from the big one to the small one. What I think is we'll probably have to do both. And in that sense, I'm thinking the container, this gray box, that probably should transition. And the internal contents, we can fade out and fade in and look. It would probably work out. So let's start with that. Let's start with the container. And again, the test is not to create a really good app, even though I guess that's a good side effect. The test is if I could make, if I could integrate nicely with React UI. You can see my throat. My throat is not in the best shape because it's cold outside. And I don't have corona. At least I hope I don't. Okay. Player. Okay, so this is the backdrop. And this is the container, I guess. So what's nice is that the container is already here. And then I have a size element. How do we decide the height of this thing? Okay, let's look at what's in the size. Okay. Oh, interesting. So it seems like, so it's been a while. I worked on this on Thursday, Friday. I've forgotten how half of the code works. But it seems like the height is on auto. So it basically calculates based on whatever content is inside. Which is pretty cool, which is interesting. Which means if I just start hard coding the height, like if I make it, I don't know, 400, I could just use CSS transition to go from big to yeah, see this stays the same size. And so 400 is the big one. That was a very lucky fluke. And if I have to guess, I'm gonna say this one is like 64 or something. Let's see, do I have it anywhere? 12, which is 48. Huh. Okay. For me, it's 12. Dope. So this is a small size. Okay. So then can we say if size is small, then use 12. And if it's large, use 400 pixels. I'm going to use calc. Let's say use 100 into 1 unit. This is a very weird way of saying 1 unit is actually 4 pixels. That's why 12 is actually the thingy. Wait 1 second. Yeah, so the scale is, I'm on the 4 pixel scale, which means 1 unit is 4 pixels and 12 is 12 into 4, which is like 48 pixels. So I can do things like this. I could have also done like 10 into 10, but like, doesn't matter. I'm just trying to show this off. And now if I do transition property and transition speed is in maybe, and then you usually should specify like a speed. With this, do I have to do none of those things I just mentioned? if I use CSS animations. Okay, so what we know is that CSS animations is probably going to be the easiest, as long as I can make it work. Okay. Height, ease in, that's how you do it, I think. I'm gonna check if transition height is in 2 seconds. Okay, seems like it liked that. Oh, but the height didn't work because it says undefined into 1. Oh, is it 1 into 100? That's gonna be difficult to remember. That's a bad API. Maybe it should be something around like, if this is a scale value, then you say 1 unit into 100 or s into 100. Maybe just n into 100, where n is like unit on the scale. Okay, but I've got this right now. So, wow, that's horrible. Okay, let's make it really fast. So it should be, if it's like a model like this, I think it should be around 250 milliseconds. And all of this is like, ideas for this are from the material design motion docs. They have a page on speed. This one. So they talk about how fast dialogue should be, how fast smaller things should be. So the duration. And yeah, exit should be faster than entry, all of that. Okay, so this is what we have now. You can see it's pretty bad. It's pretty right size. I'm gonna make it ease in and ease out, both. This changes. Okay, it's not horrible, but it's also not great. And you can see that this changes before. So if I make this, let's make it 5 seconds, just so that we can see the animation in slow motion. Yeah, you see this changes and then the thing goes down. So what would be cool is if we could take 5 seconds or the same amount of time to fade in and then fade out the second one so that it looks like it's getting replaced. So let's do it with CSS first. And this is interesting. So right now I just remove this. I switch between the two instead of playing with the opacity. So maybe both of these should be on the screen. And then we play with the opacity. So can I say small player CSS? Let me go to small player. Okay, small player doesn't accept any other props. That's bad. It should not only accept it, it should pass it to the topmost row. Oops. Okay, same goes for blick player. Take all the props, pass it to the first element. Oh, okie doke. Now this should work. Yeah, so you see that's gone, but also the height is kind of messed up. This should be if CSS. Okay, if size is small, then show 1, otherwise don't show it. And in this case, I'm just gonna make it like big. Yeah, it's called small and big, so that should make sense. Let's see if it's still, at least the opacity works. No, I've screwed something up. Okay, that's good. Now come back up. Okay, so this height is screwed up, which is good. Oh, it's too. Is it too small? Is this the wrong unit? I'm gonna just use 400 pixels. If it's small, use 12, otherwise use 400 pixels. That seems right. Yeah, 400 is too small, maybe. 440. Okay, I'm not sure if that's what's wrong or if this is wrong. Like, this shouldn't be happening. Okay. Oop, not small. Is it this CSS that caused the problem? Oh, it's the fact that both of them are there together. Okay, that makes sense. I'm gonna put the small player under the big player. That sounded weird, but it's not. Okay. Yeah, there we go. And when we close this, here's a small player. And for some reason, the opacity of the text is wrong. Now I can't even okay, I can't expand it at least. Nope, don't play. Okay, so things are getting screwed, which is interesting. Okay, so what I'm thinking right now at least is that this should also have a transition, and this transition should be the same speed but with opacity in it, and same for this one. Okay, so now let's see, like at 5 seconds, what's the difference. If I click outside, this fades away, this comes in, which is good, except that the text is gone, which is stupid. And oh, I think this is okay. I'm gonna go on a hunch and say the small player and the big player are all lying on top of each other, and that's why you don't see anything. So if we fix the text, we would see the things. Okay, these are the two players. The second one is the small player. The small player is visible. That's good. This is the stack. Stack has a margin. Huh. Oh, I know what's happening. Do we have a margin here? No, we don't. I don't know what's happening. Okay, we're in debug mode. Sorry that you gotta see this. Okay, so this is the small player. That's the audio. Actually, this might be the player itself. What is this? Oh, this is the overlay. Okay, so then this is the big player. This is the small player. The small player is actually outside of the screen. That's what's wrong, and it's because this thing is pushing it down. There we go. That's the problem. So then what we need to do is both of these should actually be positioned absolute and at the top inside their own players. Right? That makes sense. Position absolute, and of course width should be 100%. And then same is gonna happen when the other one comes, because this should disappear. And there we go. Sweet. Okay. I think that is what was missing. So let's go to a small player and add this. Position. Whoops. This should be the other. There's a way to do this. Transform. Nope. Control. I forgot I had set this up. Top 0, 100%. Good. Now there's extra. Okay, this is good. Finally, sorry. All right. So now let's remove the 5 seconds and make it something faster. So 5 seconds. I'm gonna make it 300 milliseconds. Close it. Oop, open it. Oop. See, it's the same thing transitioning, but then you also have a fade over here. There used to be an animations tab somewhere. Never used it, so I don't know where it is, but I've heard about it. Oh, there it is. More tools, okay. Can I have, okay, listening for animations, good. I can do this. And then I can pick this one and can I, oh, I could play it. Look at this. Chrome DevTools is ahead of its time. So yeah, this is what I'm doing. I'm doing a height, which is linear. Or no, it's a ease in, ease out. And then the opacity is both, I think it's just ease in, which probably is a bad idea because actually it does look nice, or at least the amount of animation I know it looks nice. So this is when it's fading away, it appears. Looks nice to me. The only thing I'd probably change is to make this the same, ease in and ease out. Okay, show me how that looks. Yeah, I think it looks it matches the height and opacity, which I think is a win, which I do like. Okay. So that, at least with CSS animation, this was pretty trivial. I like that. I think that's a win. So the next thing I want to say is like, how do you even decide these durations, and how do you make sure they're good? So the React UI themes also have a way of mentioning durations. I think I already have a few, and so these are the ones I took from, I want to say Material Design, their motion docs, but I don't think this is the right value for it. But the idea is that for, like, it depends on the context where you're using it. So this, like the 75 milliseconds is something that you'd use with like a switch, right? It should be really fast. 100 milliseconds is like drop downs and menus. Wait, can I show you a menu? Let me open the docs. Docs, yeah, on start. It's starting, open in a different port, sure. All right. So I get distracted. Okay, all my fans are spinning loudly. RAM is at 100%, so this might take a second. But the idea is like the menu should be of this speed. Okay, now here, let's change it to light. Components, let's see, do we have a menu? Menu. Yeah, so this, right now, this you can see is instant, right? So for something like a menu, you'd want to use the 100 milliseconds, right? And the way you would do this is you say, so see this property is called durations, which means I can go here and say transition duration and then pick from the scale, right? So I know that 0 is 0, and first one is for tooltips, second one is for menu, third one is 0, 1, 2, 3 is actually this one. And in our case, what we're going for is 300, so which is 0, 1. You know what would be nice if I just wrote it like this. 1, 2, and because arrays and objects are like, arrays are objects in JavaScript land, so these are literally the same thing. There's no difference. But one of them has readable indexes. that you have to count. Yeah, so then what I want is the 5. 5 or 4, one of them. Honestly, I wouldn't be able to tell the difference, so it's fine. Transition duration 5. And this is more like, so if I wanted to, I could also create some decisions. So this is the tokens, right? That's the first layer. Then you have a decisions layer. And in my decisions layer, I can add things. So I can say durations for, let's say, tooltip is 2, right? And durations for things like menu should be 3. Duration for dialogues should be 4. And modals are the biggest ones. So modals should take a lot of time because they have to like zoom in or come up. Like it should be a longer transition. Durations. And that's, so when I declare this, now I can actually also go back and say, use the transition duration for dialogue, right? And it would read durations, find its number 4, then go back into durations and read that should use 4, right? So you can see it still works. Let's make it really fast. Let's use the tooltip one just to see how fast it can be. This is not the right place, is it? Oh, where did it go? This one. Let me change this. Transition duration tooltip. And I'm going to remove it from the property. So both of these are CSS properties. I'm not doing anything interesting here. So you see this is like super fast. And then let's move it to dialogue. So by default, like the themes that ship with React UI, they don't come with the decisions. They only come with the variables. That makes sense. So I have all of these durations, but then you could pick 1, 2, 3 when you're building the UI, or if you'd like to make it more opinionated, then you can actually go to your decisions layer, and everything is an object. So decisions are just more keys into the same thing. And this is just how I like to do it, where I declare variables first and decisions under it. You could merge the two. That's also fine. But yeah, so the library itself doesn't come with these decisions, only comes with the options. Trying to keep it less opinionated so that you can add your own opinions, which would be the idea. Cool. So this should be 4, this should be 4. Transition duration is 4. Okay. So now that we're done with that, let's see. I kind of really like it and don't feel we need to do a framer motion version like this. This looks pretty dope. So I'm just gonna close this. It worked out, which is great. But did test that this works, at least like CSS animation works, so that's something we know. I'm gonna try framer motion later just to test if it works. For now, I want to move forward and work on the podcast app. So let's do some responsive design for desktop. And the idea with that was like, this looks really bad to me. And on desktop, this should probably just like squeeze in and take the like this much less space in the center. Something like Twitter does, right? They shrink the whole thing and they squeeze other things. So for example, on the mobile view, the left bar is really tiny, and then you have a centered, what do you call it, feed. But when you scroll and make it really big, the feed is still in the center and it's small, but there's like more elements on the side. So we're gonna do the first part, which is make the stream centered. I don't really have more elements. I don't know if I do want more elements. So that's something to figure out. Maybe in this stream, we'll find out. Let's get that first part done. So should I expand it? I'm gonna make so when you reload the page, on mobile, this is the default. but it probably should be this because you come to the feed first. Or actually, let's figure that out later. First, let's just remove everything and focus on like when there is nothing playing. So, where do we go? We don't need the player, we need the feed. This is good. Console. Okay, this was the feed. And okay, let me go even up to look at the parent. Alright, so this is how it is. It's header, feed, and player. So I think these styles could go inside the feed. And first of all, let me just design with only desktop in mind. So I want to say max width is 800 pixels maybe. I could do the calculating thing where I say 1 star 200 or like 10, which is 40 pixels into, never mind, you don't need to know that. I think what would be interesting more than that is instead of 80 pixels, if you could just say 80 units on the scale, right? Or you say scale units or grid units, right? Or S for scale, and then, you know, like if you say 20S, that becomes 20 into 4 pixels because 1 unit is 4. Something to think about. I'm still not sure what the API should be, but for now, whenever you want to get something which is not on the scale, you switch to pixels. So this is good. Next thing would be to do the margin trick. Margin 0 auto. So I actually only care about the X, Y, or left, right. So I'm going to say X, which is a shortcut for saying margin left and margin right. And yeah, this is pretty cool. This wasn't a lot of work. It's still a little big. I'm going to make it 768 pixels. Oop. Yeah. Okay, that wasn't hard. It's pretty cool. I like it. Now let's go to the player. So first of all, oh wait, okay, I have an idea. If we make this even smaller, then we can put the player on the right, which means it's not even positioned absolute anymore. It's not fixed, it's just somewhere. That's scary. Okay, first let me think about making the player. So I think the player should always start at the bottom. Actually, you know what? If you open this page, you would want the player to be open. So this decision is not bad, just that it looks ridiculous. Oh, my comments were off, so I don't know if you're saying something. Okay. Kamlesh, how does React UI know the value of transition duration? It has to pick from durations. Is it a CSS prop doing the magic? Yes. So, this is something that is not documented yet, but it uses style system under hood. Actually, it doesn't use style system. I forked style system because I wanted to add a bunch more opinions to it, but what it does is the CSS prop. Yeah, the CSS tokens reference, do I have it? No, I don't. Empty page. So what it does is it looks at, so if you say color, it looks at tokens.colors. And if you say font size, it looks at tokens.font sizes. So I have a map somewhere. Yeah, there we go. So color, all of these things use colors. Margin, padding use tokens.space. Font weight, font size. Then the one we talked about was duration. Yeah, so transition duration, animation duration, and animation delay, all of these use durations. So I'm going to copy this whole giant tree and paste it in the documentation, but they're kind of guessable, I want to say, right? So like, for example, shadow, text shadow comes from shadows. Color come from colors, and everything that is related to size, so width, height, all of these come from sizes. Okay, it's not very obvious, but like there are not many scales. I think there are like 4 or 5 common scales. So once you get used to them, then it's pretty easy. The other thing is like you can add things to the scale. So and this idea is totally taken from styled system. By the way, styled system. This is the. It would be an understatement to say this is the inspiration. This is the basic idea, and then I've put my opinions on top of it, right? So this is how they also do it, where you say padding right, which comes from space, right? And they have the same system. So what's interesting is you can actually take tokens and you can define your own, right? So if you had something really custom, let me think of a weird example. What property would you have which is super custom? That's really hard. My brain doesn't work. Okay, let's just call it. Let's say if you had a layout option in which you had what is the width of the column, right? You could make a custom property called column widths, right? And it could have values. I like to start 0 with 0, but you don't have to. And you could define your own values. These could be on a scale, maybe they're not on a scale. It's totally your decision. And then in your property, when you say width, it doesn't have to be width, it could be anything. You could also write a function here, right? So this function essentially gives the whole tokens object to you. Not theme, I should say tokens, right? Gives you your tokens, and you can say column widths 2, or actually 2 like this, right? So it's pretty smart for like 90% of the thing, 99.9% things you have to do. But if you have something super custom, then you could just fall back to this syntax, which also works. Okay, I hope that answers your question, Kamlesh. Let me know if you have more doubts. Okay, so this height thing is done. Yeah. The next thing I really want to try out if we can make the layouts more interesting. I'm gonna do it. I think it'll be pretty cool. So because I want to show you the responsive syntax. Let me open the docs and show you like what does it mean? Like what do I even mean by the responsive syntax? So all the components follow this one specific syntax for responsive. I haven't documented it, but it's there in layouts. And this again is from styled system. I didn't invent this, but I really do like this. Yeah, this is what the syntax looks like. So you can say instead of giving like one property, you could give an array of properties. And what this essentially means is that you're dividing between breakpoints. So if I go back to my theme, there are breakpoints already defined with the theme. These ones, you can tweak them. This is my mobile, this is my tablet. Above this is my laptop and desktop. And what I do here is, or what I took from styled system is that the default is mobile. So you see the stack can be of direction vertical or horizontal. And by mentioning these three, what I'm doing is, this is 0, 1, 2, 3. So the first one goes for this, second for this, third for this, according to breakpoints. So on the smallest breakpoint, the stack would be direction vertical. For the rest of them, it would be horizontal. So right now, I think I'm in desktop. If I go on mobile, you see the stack changed to vertical. And when you come up, the stack, it's like whenever you hit the breakpoint, the stack changes. Similarly, you have align start and align center. That's the vertical, same concept. Let me show you another example. So this one, first of all, has the same stack. So that would be interesting. See, it shrinks. This tablet is horizontal as well. But the moment you go to, this is tablet. The moment you go to mobile, the stack changes from horizontal to vertical. And then Air Canada and this text is aligned like that. So essentially it's the first value is mobile, the rest of them like tablet and desktop, 3 values. You can't see the grid, which is sad. Can I change the theme? Oh, I screwed up the grid. No. Okay, maybe it's there in the grid documentation though. Components, grid. Okay, you can't. Oh, nice, thanks. I don't know who I'm thanking. No, I did totally screw up the grid. Okay, never mind. But I can still show it to you here. Unless I actually broke the grid, in that case it's broken here as well. Let's find out. So what I'm trying to say is that the feed and the player can be side by side or can be top and bottom depending on the responsive syntax. So which means we could do something interesting with the grid. Trying to think of a nice way of doing this. Like the syntax is okay. Let me go back to the layout page to show you the syntax. Core concepts, layouts, grid. Yeah, so inside a grid you can have a column which is like the grid is 12 sizes, so it could be 2 size plus 10 size, and you can make it responsive where you can say mobile is on the mobile it's always 12 and 12. This is bullshit. I can't even see what I'm talking about. Nope, thank you. Wow, so many console errors. We'll ignore that. Stack grid. There we go. Nothing has any width. Why? Grid column. I'm just gonna give it. It does have height. Okay, so never mind. That demo is a bust. Let's just try it here. I'm still trying to think. How do I even get that? Like I want to make these into 2 column or 1 column. Okay, so the basic syntax is something like this. You wrap the whole thing in a grid and then you use a column, right? And then this becomes a column and the switch part becomes a column, right? And then I'll have to include grid. So grid and column. Now I can say this takes 6 spaces. I have a feeling this wouldn't work because our player is our player is absolute, so it doesn't. Okay, just to show you how it works, I'm gonna put 2 columns, both with the feed. So you see, yeah, this is the grid, right? I've given both of these 6 and 6. Now what I can do is, depending on the size, so the first one is mobile. I can say take the whole space on mobile, 8 columns out of 12 on tablet and only 6 on desktop. And similarly, here I'm gonna say on mobile take the whole space, that 8 plus this, I'm gonna make it 4. So that I'm trying to simulate a sidebar that only takes 4 while the main content takes 8. Okay, so this is desktop, this is 6 and 6. Then we'll reach tablet. Okay, this is tablet, so it's 8 out of 12 and 4 out of 12. This is where I was thinking of putting the player. And this is mobile, this is 12, and then there is another one below it which is out of the screen, which is 12. So maybe instead of here, maybe I can just dump the big player. It takes a bunch of props, so I can't just use it like that. Okay, this is why you shouldn't live stream without thinking about it first. So this is the 6 and 6, right? And this is a small player, this is a big player. I'm wondering if for desktop I can freeze this in the center, which probably means I need a third player It's not gonna be big and small, it's just gonna be a third player over here, a little less size I'm guessing. So this should be 8, and 8, like 12 minus 8 is 4. Yeah, something like this. Ooh, I think I know how to do this. So what I know for sure is there should be no backdrop on desktop. So if we go to the backdrop component, we can just display none on it. Feed player. This is the backdrop, right? And I do have a display size. None in block. I could make this an array. Okay, so let's first write it again. So what I want is something like this, where on mobile you need this, you want this logic, right? So the whole logic can stay. But on tablet and desktop, I never want to see this thing, right? Which means I could just make it none. Right, and this logic is pretty gnarly. Oh, 2 displays, sorry. Yeah, this whole logic is pretty gnarly, but the idea is that the first one is for mobile, this is for tablet, this is for desktop, and in the mobile one we're actually also doing some calculations. So yeah, so now you see that at least the backdrop is gone, and on mobile it comes back, but on mobile we have this nonsense where, you know, it doesn't take the right size, which means, okay, so on mobile this should be full size, and on tablet and desktop it should be like this. On this should also be the full size. Oops, 4 and 4. So when you give two things 12 and 12, they just come under each other, right? So this is for mobile. Now if we go take it to desktop, this takes 8 and this takes 4. You can't really see it. Oh, I think I disabled the wrong thing maybe. No, this looks fine. Oh, is it outside or something? Wait, where is my style.css? Overflow, not hidden. Actually, that shouldn't be a problem because anyways it's a 12 grid, it fits inside, so that's not it. But yeah, it's hidden somewhere. We'll find out. Okay, Kamlesh says, yes, that answers my question. Thank you for the detailed explanation. You're welcome, Kamlesh. Extending the question, how do we add prop validations? For example, if we say we want to add a prop validation where the space is on scale 5 and the user used 6. That's a really cool question. So right now, let's first break down what you're saying, because there can be multiple things. So if the scale is of 5, or I'm just going to like tweak the question and assume the scale is of 4 because it fits my system, but you can of course change it. So if I enter something like, or actually let me say padding left, right? If I say padding left is 4 or padding left is 6, this isn't really a value on the scale. This is the index, right? So this is going to give you the 6th value on your scale, right? So you can say 1 and 2 and 3, and like even when you say 6, it doesn't really tell you. But if you want to like bypass it, you could do 6 pixels, right? So if you do 4.5, for example, it doesn't really resolve to anything, right? So it just resolves to, it would say it doesn't really know what 4.5 is. So it's going to assume that you mean 4.5 pixels, which you probably do, probably don't. So there's no really way of knowing. I have it in a, I want to say it's in a branch. Maybe I have it in this branch where I have warnings. Yeah. So there are warnings where if you don't give a unit, right, and it's not on the scale. So that's true for things like if you say like a very random number, or if you say 4.5, if something's not on the scale, then it asks you that this is not on the scale. You should give me exactly what you want. So, but if you mention something like pixels, then it assumes you know what you're doing, and that's what you want, right? That's the tricky part about prop validations, that there are layers of prop validation. You want to stop mistakes, but there are also exceptions, right? Like sometimes you have to do -1 pixel to just align two things, like, how it is, right? So sometimes you've got to do -1 pixel. And if you're working with like icons in SVG, you might not be able to work on the scale. So you might want to say this should be 6 pixels, even though 6 pixels is not on the scale. The library allows it because the library has to handle exceptions. The place, like if you just mention 4.5, it shouts at you because it doesn't know what to do. But if you tell it that it's 4.5 pixels, then it assumes you know what you're doing. So I think the place where you're coming from is like, how do I stop mistakes from happening? And the idea there is that unless it's an exception, in your code review, you would ask people to use not pixels, but to use the scale, right? So you say 4 or 5, which actually translates to a value on your scale and not the pixel value. So I want to say this helps reducing it, because slowly everyone is using the scale and not really thinking about pixels anymore. But if you still need to, then you go back to a pixel value, which is sort of like saying, I want to override the scale. I hope that makes sense. And if you're trying to stop exceptions in the first place, then this is not the layer which helps you. That probably needs to happen at the developer level, which is in code review, or just having a conversation of, hey, you didn't use the scale. Was it an exception or was it a mistake? I hope that's that answers the question. I don't think it helps you, but that's where the library, that's what the library layer can do for you. Okay, back to this. Okay, so now that we have the two grids, where on mobile it's 100%, on desktop it's cut into two. I also, while I'm using this, I don't like the fact that this starts here. So another thing you can do with grids is you can just start. So even though it's 12 point, you can say start at the 3rd position or start at the 2nd position. And that's actually a feature of CSS grid, which I've borrowed. So again, not invented by me. I'm just borrowing ideas from everywhere. So on mobile, it should start from 0, but on desktop and the rest, it should start from, let's say, 2, which means this size should be, this one should actually be 6 and 6 to make space. Preet is saying, maybe for better developer experience, on the hover of 6, show the resolved value. That would be really cool. That does make a lot of sense. It's like educating as you go. I don't know how to do that. I imagine that would need, like, if the CSS prop is typed and it's typed for every one of the values, then when you say left, then it knows where the value comes from. Oh, but TypeScript would still type this. It probably would be able to show you the whole scale here, but I don't know how to show the resolved value on hover. If you have ideas, please let me know. That would be really cool addition. I do agree with that. Okay, back to the grid. 0 and this. So you can see it's here. I can see it now. And this is, I remember now, we added a stack width of 100 somewhere where we had a position value. I think this is what will also not work. So going back, if you're on mobile, then it should be position absolute if it's mobile. If it's not mobile, then it should be not absolute, but relative. And the width, maybe it should it even have width here? Oh, this is the small player. Maybe I need the large player. Undo. Redo that one. Yeah, the big player. Interesting. The big player actually just sits quietly, doesn't really say anything. This is still fine. So what I'm thinking now is that we probably need a third player over here, because so I can add, just as I did, I could add things here. Responsive, where I could like make it not absolute but relative and then shrink the width and set the margin. But it seems like it's a little bit polluting the thing that works. So maybe we need a third player. And instead of using like the display property, I could use the CSS. Okay, still a display, but in the sense that I could use the responsive props to make it work. Let's see. Okay. This is the player, and this whole thing is 100% with position fixed. That's the one that causes problem. So if we remove position fixed, could work. Not entirely against it. Okay, let's see, where is fixed? If we don't have to change it everywhere and only in like one or two places, then I'm totally fine with it. Relative. Right, so then this is how it works on desktop. I'm not gonna lie, this looks bad. I don't really like how it looks. Like, I thought it'd be a good idea to put them next to each other, but the way it works right now, I got stuck for a moment. Yeah, those are the two changes I'm gonna make. I was saying that mobile and tablet should probably have the same, because this clearly isn't enough space for anything, and then desktop should just have less space. So okay, this is an interesting problem with this approach, is that you have to find every responsive place. Should be easy, I guess. I mean, you could just look for all arrays. This is correct. This should be 12. Cool. So I'm making the first two match, essentially. That's all. Perfect. And where did I do the fixed? Fixed change was here. There we go. That would do it. Okay, not too hard. Sweet. So this is tablet. Oop, there was another one. This one should be here. The logic looks really interesting, but the transition works. That's important. Yeah. Okay, this is also tablet. Oh, this is desktop. Okay, interesting. Which means I need to change my breakpoints. And I want it so that this qualifies as... Actually, you know what? That's not the right answer. The answer is like I was left too much space for desktop. It doesn't have to be that much. Like over here, when I did start, on mobile I start at 0, but on desktop I start at 2 out of 12. And this should probably... This could probably work. Oh wait, that's not what I want to do. Make this 0 and this 8. So basically always start at 0, remove this, span 8. Okay, nice. This is good. This is not my favorite, but it's fine. And this is on desktop, which is not bad. I like it though. Maybe start this a little later for desktop only. So 0, 0, 2. And oh, but that's the same thing. Never mind. Okay, I think I lost the chart. 1 second. Click to view. Sorry, I accidentally lost chart. Pop out. Maybe better. Okay, cool. This should be live chat. Cool, now I can see chat again. Alright, so that looks like a good place to stop. Ooh, I wonder what happens when you do this. That looks stupid, but you can't really do that on desktop, I guess. You can't click anywhere to make this smaller, which is perfect. This border top is the last thing that I would want to remove. So, border top, is that the one? Yeah, that's the one. Okay, I'm gonna make the border top on mobile should be there. This one, it should be there, but it shouldn't be there on desktop. Okay, I don't know whether I ever thought about using Svelte. Yeah, I actually really liked Svelte, but not right now though. Haven't used it in a while. Okay, so I think I found a bug, which is really nice. Nice. So it seems like border top does not take responsive syntax. That's really bad. I don't know why or how. Let's see if border color takes it. And just like transparent on desktop. It does. So you see this is good. Okay, so I've basically I have a bug somewhere. I'm gonna mark this as done, but I'm gonna create an issue for tomorrow, which is border top doesn't take responsive syntax, which is very weird, and I have a feeling I know why. There's a place, there we go, border values. Yeah, there's a place where I try to do something smart with borders. Oh, I try to split them, right? Oh, okay. So I need to make this in a loop. Okay, smart. But which also means that border top shouldn't be responsive. It should be border width. And I can say border width is 1 pixel for mobile, 1 pixel for tablet, and 0 for the other one. And then this could be border style is solid. So now I have style, width, and color, where maybe this could go back to always being the same. Okay. So this is like an interesting workaround where if you split it with values, then it works, but it doesn't work in the shorthand, which I guess is like a bad approach. It should work in all of them. Cool. So now that I know the bug, I can fix the bug. Expected comma, I added it. Great. For now, I think it's done. It's cool. Okay, Kamlesh. Awesome. So I was coming from the perspective when people use index value, which doesn't exist in the array of space scale. So the warning you said would solve it. Yeah, that's the idea. If you give it like 30 and 30 doesn't exist on the scale because you've not defined it, it should either assume you mean 30 into 4 and give you like 120 pixels, or it should say, I don't know what you're talking about. Either say 30 pixels or say 30 units maybe, which would mean like 30 units on the scale. Maybe we need to invent like a fake unit called F, which just means units on the scale, or U. So when you say 30U, it means 30 on your spacing, units of the spacing scale. I'm going to create an issue for that and see if it works nicely. Okay, so the app is responsive, which means you can open it on desktop. I don't imagine anyone wanting to do that because it really works better as a mobile app and it plays and everything. Okay, so we have one bug. Unit for defining, I don't know, scale unit would be the value, and then show warning if value is not on the scale. Right? This would only work for pixel values, I guess. Actually, you know what? Should work for all of them. I'm going to change the order and do this at the very end. Okay, and then somewhere here I need to finally like publish the docs. Publish the docs. So this kind of made me confident that, you know, it's in a good shape where if you can build this much and it's responsive and it like looks decent and it works with hooks and everything, then maybe it's in a shape where you can start shipping it, can start using it. So cool. So I think the first thing I'm going to do tomorrow is publish the docs. Publish the docs, which are still in beta because not everything is written out. But anywho, you can, if you want, look at the repo, and yeah, like everything other than this demo is already in it. I'm gonna push the demo as well, so that you know you can play around with it if you want. And yep, I think I'm gonna call it here for today, and see you folks tomorrow, or not see you folks tomorrow, depending on if you're busy. No pressure, and stay at home, people. Social distance. Stay safe and keep other people safe from you as well. All right. Ciao.